Hey, Britton, how you doing? All right, let me go ahead and take a look at your post here. I've got your sketch up. Now, what I want you to do, I think it would really be beneficial for you if you were to go through some of the other video critiques for your peers, for your fellow students, and just kind of get an idea of some of the comments that I've made. I think there's a lot of things here that we need to address, and I think a lot of other things will be addressed in comments to other peers. So I think it's always a great idea for students to take a look at the critique for their peers as well as their own. I think it really, really makes a big difference. All right, so what do we have here? We've got this week's assignment is to develop sketches for your word mark. And those sketches are based on the words on your word list, okay? And the reason we are doing this is still using the word list is because what we don't want to do is we don't want to make arbitrary decisions. We want to make informed and researched decisions based on the word lists, the extraction of meaning associated with those word lists, and the way that we have been working to assign meaning to our visual representation of our client through our logo marks, our word marks, and next week through our monograms. So it's really, really important that you design these with that intent. Otherwise, you're just arbitrarily sketching, which can work, but it doesn't really have this kind of conceptual tie between your research, your development of meaning, your assigning of meaning, and your visual representation of all of the above. Okay, I hope that makes sense. It's a really critical key point in this class, and probably one of the major learning objectives is to, in this particular case, when designing logos or developing branding for a client, it has got to be based on the research and the data extraction of that research and the way that you assign meaning to your client. Okay, the reason I said that is because none of your none of your sketches are labeled with the words from your word lists. Okay, so that leaves me to believe that this is basically arbitrary sketching, and that's what we want to avoid. Please let me know that makes sense, or if it doesn't, let me know, because it's really important that I make that specifically clear. It's really, really important. So like I said, it's probably one of the major objectives in this class. Okay, so the other comment I think what you need to do at this point is really go through the course materials and get a firm understanding of the differences between word marks, logo marks, and monograms. And that's what we designed in this class. Remember, last week we designed our logo mark. This week we're designing word marks. Next week we're designing monograms. It's very important to understand the differences between the three, because right now most of your sketches here are monograms. They're not word marks. For that reason, I'm going to have to ask you to re-sketch 10 depictions of word marks. All is not lost, because these depictions of monograms here, they can all be used again next week once you assign meaning to them by labeling them and showing that you're making a connection between the meaning that you've developed and some of the traits and attributes that you've assigned to your client, and how your visual work represents those traits and attributes. Okay, this is good. This is a monogram. This is a monogram. This is actually a logo mark. This is a monogram. This is a monogram. Okay, so on the first page we need to replace 1, 2, 3, 4 monograms with word marks. Let's move to the second page. Over here, this is your logo from last week, or it's darn close. So that, I would say, boy, I would stay away from that. You've already used that idea. Why use it again in your logo, on your word mark? Okay, this is a monogram. This is a monogram. This is more of a logo. Well, actually, no, this could be considered a word mark. So I could actually be considered a word mark too, but that with the MP, that makes it more of a monogram. That's definitely a monogram. That's a monogram. That's a monogram. That's a monogram. And that's a monogram. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this page that need to be replaced. Okay. So as I said, again, there's a really, really important to understand the differences between these, because as I said, most of these are monograms, or many of these are monograms. As far as the word marks themselves, well, I think this is quite interesting. That's a good job. That's a full-blown logo, so that's not really a monogram, a word mark. I think this is really, really interesting right here. I think this is very interesting as well. So you've got some really good stuff going on. That's interesting. You have some really good stuff going on. I think this is too forced. Okay, like I think this is great because you've kind of included the horns in with the typography. This to a lesser degree, but I think the ring, boy, that's, I don't know, man, that's pretty interesting though. Now that I look at it, I think that is pretty interesting. Okay, so you've got some great ideas here. I mean, the idea generation stage is definitely present here, but those comments, please review my comments and please submit those changes for your task 1, milestone 3, task 1 final submission at the end of the week. And then that leaves you with, or if you want to submit it earlier, I'll be glad to comment if you need help deciphering which direction you would like to go with your word mark. But at this point, I don't think we have enough here to really make a really informed decision, since most of these are monograms. Okay. All right. So those are my recommendations moving forward. As I said, I'd like to see those changes in your final submission, task submission for at the end of the week. And if you want to make those changes and resubmit here, I'll be able to get your comments and feedback back before you make a decision as to your final direction of the word mark. All right. Okay, good job. Thank you very much. Any questions at all? I'm right here. Please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. Thank you very much.